The Pseudo Nerd Podcast.
Or a board game revolution, as I like to call it.
I've never heard you call it that, but
you've said it. You've now said it, I think, 4 times, and it is the title of the rundown.
Teetering between dude and dork.
From a physics or realistic standpoint, it makes more sense than this Death Star that can just, do that.
These friends discuss everything from sports.
I hope you don't win a playoff game with your kicker scoring the most points.
To movies.
The whole idea of Hermione and Harry Potter, it's just like having the jock getting with the cheerleader to me.
To cheeseburgers.
Baconzilla is just an extra thing I'll have.
It's an added bonus, a little treat.
The 2 Baconzillas I get are the extra added treat.
This is the Pseudo Nerd Podcast with Josh Kiser.
You come in there, scissor kick some people, do a spinneroonie, get tossed out.
Josh had it.
If you've never read the graphic novel and watched that, you walk away from it thinking about Batman and Batgirl instead of Batman and Joker.
And Kyle Hogan.
And he's just bathing in his blood.
Get ready. The Pseudo Nerd Podcast starts now.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 65 of the Pseudo Nerd Podcast for August 11th, 2017. I am Josh Kiser, and I am joined once again by just Kyle Hoagland.
Is it shocking? Is it shocking, everybody, that it's just me? Because
at this point, it's just the standard Pseudo Nerd Podcast with Kyle Hoagland and Josh Kiser. I mean, that's about it.
This is about as shocking as the Shockmaster would have been if it was actually pulled off correctly. But regardless, horrible joke. Had nothing else. I tried to do something wrestling related.
Well, I appreciate that, and that you're doing something wrestling related because we are talking wrestling today, as we're going to be previewing Summerslam 2017. We'll break down all of the matches, kind of the build-ups, what our thoughts, give our predictions. And I know we're probably by the time this podcast released, we're about 10 days shy of SummerSlam, so maybe everything hasn't been totally written in stone yet. Some of the cards subject to change, but we'll do our best along the way and kind of discuss what we know and kind of give some of our thoughts on what we think may be coming along the horizon here for the WWE this summer. That said, it's one of their big shows. It is their big summer show, by all means.
The biggest party of the summer, if you will.
There you go. It's no Great American Bash, though. I'm just going to throw that out there.
I mean, it's way better than the Great American Bash, but I guess. Look, let's tell you this. The Great American Bash might have been, as far as content for WCW, that might have been their WrestleMania a lot of the times.
It was a great pay-per-view. Had a great set, a better name. I mean, all around it was just a good, I miss it. Take away Battleground, which was a garbage pay-per-view anyways. Bring back the Great American Bash. Or, let's even bring out Beach Blast from the old early 90s.
See, I liked Bash at the Beach. I think Bash at the Beach was a better title also for a wrestling.
Well, yeah, that's what it came down to. And I'd be happy with that. Bring Beach or get Bash at the Beach back. I'm fine with that too. SummerSlam is just a lame name.
Well, I mean, at that point, I feel like the promoting, the marketing wasn't necessary for the WWF at that time. I mean, they pretty much could polish a dog turd, and even though we all knew it was a dog turd, we'd still go pay to see it.
That's true. It's much like people who download this podcast. They know they're getting dog turds, but they still listen.
I mean, come on. I mean, I feel like the production has been – it's weird. I feel like maybe the production the past maybe 4 or 5 podcasts has been – other than that one short that I wasn't able to make it, that one was kind of suspect. But I don't know what it is. There's something about these podcasts that I don't know if there's something that's maybe a little extra flavor. Maybe there's something that's missing that's actually making the podcast better. I don't know. Like I said, look, and P and Peers, let's –
addition by subtraction, right?
I agree. Like I said, if you guys listeners, if you guys know what we're talking about, or I can't put my finger on it, Josh Haddix. But if you guys can let us know, what it is that's making this just resonate just better this past couple weeks. Please let us know.
You say weeks, it's almost been months at this point, but who's counting, right?
I mean, maybe 7 weeks, right? I'm not counting.
Well, despite the fact that this podcast is only down to 2 people, this SummerSlam card is going to have a main event with 4 people in it, and that's just going to be one of the many matches that we're going to be discussing as we break down SummerSlam 2017. All right, before we get into the actual card and what's confirmed, I thought it would be a good idea to sort of take a few minutes here and sort of discuss the matches that look like they're going to happen or could possibly happen. Things are always subject to change, as they like to say in the business. And let's just start right with the Tag Team Championship for Raw. This one has not been confirmed yet, and they got a couple of options, and this might be one of the maybe the most interesting possibilities going forward of these unknown matches or unconfirmed matches at this point. And that's because of the tag team division right now. You've got Sheamus and Cesaro. They're the tag team champions, and they're kind of working with Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins right now. And Ambrose and Rollins are having their kind of, I can't even call it a feud, but they're bringing up the story from basically Ambrose can't trust Rollins ever since he broke up the Shield, and he's still, they're tagging, they're being forced into tag matches, they're kind of saving each other here and there, and Rollins is playing the card of, hey man, water under the bridge, let's do this, I'm sorry, we're a great team. And Ambrose is still saying, you screwed me over, an elephant doesn't forget, I'm not going to just lie down and let you walk over me and welcome me back in open arms.
I feel like Dean would not say an elephant never forgets. Was that quoting Dean?
I may be paraphrasing slightly.
Okay. All right. Just
taking
sure.
Some liberties with the Dean Ambrose character and putting my own spin on it, if you will.
I feel like if Dean Ambrose said an elephant never forgets, I feel like that's the end of his character. But go on, please continue.
Well, so you've got that dynamic there. And last week, Sheamus and Cesaro did attack. They had like a singles match. I forget which one. I think maybe Sheamus had a singles match against Rollins. After the match, they both started attacking Rollins. Ambrose came down to help them. Then they both got beat up. So you see a lot of feuding there where maybe there is going to be a tag team match there. And for me, I think what's going to happen if they do book that and do the tag team match, I think that's fine. But what I think will happen is it's going to lead for a short-lived tag with those two. I think they're going to maybe tag at SummerSlam. One causes the other to lose, or maybe one does turn the back on the other. And it sets up a feud for those two. Because I think when the two had a feud early on, after the Shield first broke up, it was one of the hottest things in wrestling. And they kind of got away from it. And they're starting to bring it back. And it is one of the more interesting stories, I think, on Raw right now. So I would like to see them, go at it again going forward. So if it comes because of the tag team title match, then so be it. And that's because, the other big tag teams right now, the Hardys, the Revival, and Gallows and Anderson, they're all kind of just feuding against each other right now, and none of them are with Sheamus and Cesaro. So it would be really weird if all of a sudden they just spun it around and booked Sheamus and Cesaro into that group, or vice versa, one of those into them. So I really think it's Ambrose and Rollins right now. I don't know how you think this is all going to play out, Kyle.
Well, the only thing I do definitely agree that the Hardys, the Revival, and Gallows and Anderson, it makes no sense just to insert them, especially in probably the second biggest card of the year, without having some sort of. And once again, this is only the 11th or whatever there's only the 11th, so it's not like there isn't time to do that. But I feel like they owe the SummerSlam card deserves some stewing, some storyline, even if there isn't like a story to tell. But I feel like if we went on until like the Monday before SummerSlam, and then now we have somebody for Sheamus and Cesaro, that's kind of a bummer. especially for a title match. I understand it's the tag titles, but once you've inserted 2 former world champions, I guess you say 3. I know you like to keep on forgetting that Sheamus was once a world champion multiple times.
I think we should all forget that, but go ahead.
It deserves some time to build, and right now it makes the most sense. They've already started it, and whether it's for the title, I mean, it might not even be for the title, but I think there might be like a match before the match type of thing where, Ambrose and Rollins have only tagged like once. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to make them the number 1 contender. I don't think Kurt Angle would stand for that. I think
he does have integrity.
Exactly. And a lot of intelligence. Let's not forget that either. I think that he would probably actually put these 2 teams in a match on Raw, and just to say, like, okay, let's really see what you're made of. And if you can beat Sheamus and Cesaro cleanly, then you will then put the titles on the line at SummerSlam. The only other thing I can think of is having some weird, hard, having like a 4-way tag team match that has all 4 teams, and then Ambrose and Rollins still pull out the win. Because right now, they're the hottest tag team on Raw, whether Dean Ambrose likes it or not.
Well, and I think they're going to try to stay away from the Fatal 4-Way just because that might take away from the Fatal 4-Way that's going to be headlining this show. But I think at this point, Sheamus and Cesaro, Ambrose and Rollins, those 4 are going to be in a match together. And I'm gonna predict right now, if that's the match, that Sheamus and Cesaro are going to retain at SummerSlam. Thoughts on you before we move on? Agree?
No, yeah, I agree. I don't think that it's I don't think that the tag titles are what's actually in the cards for Ambrose and Rollins.
I agree.
Especially with SummerSlam as kind of the predicator. Maybe that and a little bit of Survivor Series, obviously, because it's closer to it. But I think this starts to draw the lines a bit for the road to WrestleMania, and I don't think Ambrose and Rollins are going to be playing into the tag scene at that point.
I agree. Let's move on. We've got Bray Wyatt and Finn Balor. Finn Balor had like a mini feud on Raw where it felt like he was wrestling Elias Sampson every week. And at the end of the match, or close to the end of the match, Bray Wyatt would do his little lights out interference and Finn would lose or something to that effect. Kind of setting up what I think it's going to be the return of the Demon King to pay-per-view, something you have not seen in a long time, I don't think, because of the injury to Finn and where he's been kind of thrust into the card since his return from injury. Not much else to say. I just think this is going to be Bray and Finn getting their match at SummerSlam. I don't have much to add to this other than I'm going to give my prediction. I think that Finn's going to take this one right now. I'm not sure what they're doing with either of these 2 characters. It's kind of a shame, but hopefully they give them some time at SummerSlam to showcase what they have. But I'm afraid that this is going to be a forgotten match.
See, I disagree. I think it's not going to be a forgotten match. I think it's actually going to be a very, very. I think it's going to be one of the better matches on the card if this ends up being, because right now, once again, we're talking about unconfirmed matches on this card. So I think
this one is like a 90% chance of happening at this point. I think it's formality that it's not confirmed.
I think that both of them. One thing that I've noticed with especially with Bray Wyatt actually is that he likes people talking about his matches. I think he really brings it out in his matches. So I would actually say, I'll still say that Finn Balor wins this match. I think it's his opportunity to keep on improving and getting back from his injury. He had such a fast push into the company. And yes, the last time we saw the Demon King was the last match he had before he got injured. And then ever since he's been back, he's just been as Finn Balor, the regular guy. And so, yeah, it's been a while. I think it makes sense to bring it back. But I think this is going to be actually one of the better matches of the night, but I do give it to Finn Balor.
All right, there you have it. The next one, Cena versus Baron Corbin. This one is really, really unconfirmed at this point. It's sort of speculated because Corbin attacked Nakamura after his and Cena's match. Cena helped save him. And honestly, my only thoughts is if this happens is they need these 2 to be on the card. They want Corbin being the Money in the Bank winner to be seen, and obviously John Cena, though you usually can't see him, they want to put him on the card to be seen. And for me, I think it's one of those sort of what happened with Seth Rollins at WrestleMania a couple years back. Money in the Bank winner loses and then later cashes in. That's your spoiler alert for a future, for when we start talking about the main event pictures. So for me, not much to add to this. I think the feud is almost meaningless, but I give it to Cena to win this if it does happen.
I think Cena wins. I don't know if I say wins regardless. I feel like it has to line up correctly. So when we talk about the world title match towards the end, obviously when Jinder takes on Nakamura, if Jinder for some reason retains, I don't see Corbin cashing in on Jinder Mahal. But if Shinsuke wins, I definitely see Corbin cashing in. Now with that said, as far as this match is concerned, I'm more prone to say that Corbin pulls off a victory against Cena if indeed Jinder retains. If it's in the cards for Nakamura to beat Jinder Mahal, then I think Cena wins cleanly against Baron Corbin. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it makes sense. You can't.
I think Baron Corbin wins on a high note.
Whatever.
He wins. He'll leave. I think he'll leave on a high note regardless. He's either going to lose to Cena and take it from Shinsuke at the end of the night, or he's going to beat Cena cleanly, and then that's the end of his night. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay.
Moving on, Intercontinental title. Miz had his feud with Rollins and Ambrose. That kind of ended now that Rollins and Ambrose have moved on to each other / Sheamus and Cesaro. So really not sure what's going on with him. One of the speculations is Jason Jordan, the newly anointed son that Kurt Angle didn't know he had, the biological son that he didn't know he had. So they think that maybe Kurt will give him that shot to prove it to his old man that he can be an Intercontinental Champion. This is like a 10% to me. I do think it's a total shame if Miz does not have a match at SummerSlam.
This is the third. This is the third shame by you. I mean, I'm even counting that Sheamus is in a match. So I mean, we're getting a lot of shaming coming from you.
Well, I agree. I think it is a shame. It is a shame that Miz is not being spotlighted more heavily right now. He's probably the best, if not the best, pure heel that they have right now on Raw, and he's not really doing anything right now. Intercontinental Champion. They should be doing something with him and his Miztourage. To wait and see if he does fight Jason Jordan. I think it's Miz's to win. I don't think Jason Jordan's there yet.
You know what? And that's in retrospect, if we're looking back on this, Miz definitely has much more to offer. The people that pay money to watch these shows and put their butts in the seats, not Jason Jordan. He's not there yet. Miz does not deserve to lose to Jason Jordan, and I'm shocked at 2017 that that's coming out of my mouth about the Miz. But right now, the Miz is, as far as Raw is concerned, probably one of their top 3 overall heat getters, whether it's good heat or bad heat. Or as far as let's put it this way, he's polarizing in a sense that I can't really think of any more people that I think that I'd rather actually see on the mic or see come out and do a promo than the Miz right now.
Yeah, fair point. So let's just move on there. We got 2 more we want to wrap up real quick before we get done with the unconfirmed matches. The next one, Big Cass versus Big Show. This has been kind of an ongoing thing since Big Cass turned his back on Enzo, and Enzo got Big Show, and they both have the name Big in their name, so they must want to feud each other. Honestly, Big Cass can go away. He's boring the hell out of me. He'll probably beat the Big Show if they do wrestle. But it's going to be like a kickoff show, I think. I could care less, but give me Big Cass just because if they want to push him as a big man, he's going to have to beat the Big Show.
And I kind of agree. I thought I'd like Big Cass, but when you're used to having the more enigmatic person, the one that's definitely more of the talker, the more charismatic side of the bunch. I'm not saying really that Big Cass didn't feed off well with Enzo. I think they were both very entertaining as a team.
They worked well together. They shouldn't have broken them up yet. Honestly, Big Cass to me by himself is just he's like nothing. He's worse. He's like more boring than like Test or something, and he might be the least intimidating big man I have ever seen.
Yeah, once again, he's tall, but he's not like the kind of,
he's not built. He's
not a very built guy.
Cut. He's not threatening on the mic by any means. He's just there.
And I wish Big Show could get a big win, but I think at this point in his career, his job is to put over people. So, which is a shame because I feel like Big Show is as far as his career. It's once again another shame. It's just like shame number 4 now. We'll have to bring out the shame bell pretty soon.
Right, exactly.
I want to say Big Show wins this match though somehow. Just kind of gets like just one up on Big Cass, and I will. I'll stick with the fact that Big Show comes up with the actual victory, but I do think it's a kickoff match.
Agreed. And the final one, I don't know if this thing's happening yet. I think if anything, they might be more of the reveal. Obviously, Breezango they have been killing it with all their vignettes, doing the X-Files and Twin Peaks and old detective shows and doing all these, buddy cop kind of comedy sketches that have just been fantastic. And they're trying to figure out who's been attacking them now. Fandango has been kidnapped. And Breeze is trying to figure out who it is. He's having visions and all kinds of stuff. The Ascension, who have been like kind of jobbers and comedy acts for this role, it's the best they've looked to. But it's all signs are kind of pointing that this could be the return of Eric Rowan and Luke Harper. Would make a lot of sense for the supernatural aspect they're kind of adding to it. I hope that they don't reveal it. Maybe they don't reveal it till SummerSlam. Let this feud get settled like on the next pay-per-view. I think they rush it too much to SummerSlam and they might get lost in the card, and I think this needs to be spotlighted a little bit better, maybe on a SmackDown only pay-per-view. But if it does happen, I think Eric Rowan and Luke Harper are going to win because it'd be their comeback match, but I really would like to see that Breezango do something given that they've been just doing so well with these acts.
Yeah, that's been one of the only reasons why I haven't watched SmackDown is I've been enjoying the Breezango vignettes. Now, let me ask you this: are Rowan and Harper considered still Wyatt family? Or are they away from that?
That's long gone.
That's long been gone now. I just didn't know where at this point.
No, I mean
Bray
there's
Wyatt is.
Wyatt. Yeah, they're kind of just their own entity, and they've been off TV for a while now. That you kind of just Wyatt doesn't have the Wyatt family these days.
Right, and also Wyatt's on Raw.
Right.
So I think it makes sense for them to come back. Rowan and Harper, I think by themselves are they don't offer much of anything. I think they are like the perfect group to be together, where it's just they're just a threatening, just kind of like an intimidating team with a very similar kind of background story, I guess you could say. Them by themselves, it makes me completely uninterested in them. So keep them together, and I really hope it's them as well.
All right, there you have it. And that's about all I've got for the unconfirmed or potential possibility matches. Again, we're recording this with 2 Raws and 2 SmackDowns still to go. By the time this drops, you'll have just 1 SmackDown, 1 Raw left before SummerSlam. So anything can happen, but those are our thoughts on unconfirmed matches at this time. And coming up in the next segment, we'll start breaking down the undercard matches.
Before we get under the hood on talking about some undercard matches, welcome everybody to the least important and least exciting part of this show, but you're still going to enjoy it because every segment is great, to the List Twist List segment, brought to you by Falsely Sierra Mist. Insist on the theoretical twist. And today, I actually pulled up a list from Goliath.com. And they had a list of the 13 absolute best SummerSlam matches of all time. Now, put this into perspective, there are about 30 or 40 of these lists on the internet. That is, which is very telling about 2 things. 1, SummerSlam has a lot of very, very memorable matches. And 2, man, does America love professional wrestling. To have 40 websites or 40 different articles that have lists of their best SummerSlams. Yeah. There's more best SummerSlam matches of all time than I found WrestleMania, which is also kind of weird. But I'm not going to go through all 13. I think that if we did that, you and I would get lost in just talking about the good old days. And I think we'd end up, this would be like, this right here could be, you and I could talk for an hour and a half. So I'm going to pick just a handful of them. And once again, stay within the time constraints so we can get back to the giggles of SummerSlam 2017. But the first one I wanted to actually mention was the first one on their list because I think it's actually worth the discussion, is Brock Lesnar versus John Cena in 2014. Now, for those that don't remember this match, it was only 3 years ago. This was a very, very eye-opening match because John Cena has always been known as the guy that can, he could have a match with God and, fight him to a 60-minute draw type of thing. This match was as one-sided as a match could possibly be, and put on top of that, it was against John Cena. And I think, Kiser, you remember this match where this was basically where Suplex City Bitch came from.
Yeah, he looked at the camera and said, "It's Suplex City Bitch."
So, yeah, and this is when everybody counted. I think it was like 16 German suplexes. Yep. I think Cena did his, one or two of his, moves of doom, but every single time Lesnar just powered out of it, laughed it off like it was nothing. He F5'd Cena, I think, 3 times and just pinned him, merciful, like as if it just out of mercy. He was like, let's just end it. The match ended in 10 minutes. It left everybody really shocked because at the time, Brock Lesnar was kind of not – a lot of people didn't really care for Brock Lesnar because he had just recently had beaten the streak. So obviously there was a lot of heat from a lot of pure fans that hated him for that. And then it's just John Cena with the world title. It's just, it is what it is. So people went into this match just going, I think we kind of know how this is going to end, they think. And I think it really did shock everybody in that crowd.
Agreed completely. At the time, you think about it now and you'd say, oh, okay, Brock Lesnar's, he's kind of a badass. Like he's just a destructive force. He ended the streak, all that. But at that point, it wasn't there. He was a guy who sort of surprisingly took Undertaker's streak. And yeah, he was dominant in years past, but he had been out of wrestling for the most part up until the last year or so at that point, for quite some time. This really brought him back on the map as just a destructive force. The way he manhandled the Super Cena, the guy who never would lose it, always found a way to overcome the odds, absolutely squashed him. A guy you never thought would be in a squash match on the receiving end, and there he is getting absolutely destroyed by Brock. And for a guy who, needs Paul Heyman as a voice, needs him to speak because people think he's not the best on the mic. The guy has some great one-liners, doesn't he?
I mean, when he talks during matches, that's what's memorable. And the thing that's really weird or crazy about this whole thing about Cena getting squashed is that it was at a major pay-per-view. This wasn't like, someone's like Backlash or Money in the Bank or a Raw. This is the main event at SummerSlam where all eyes are on you. And that also kind of tells you the kind of company man that Cena is too, that he'd be willing to do that. So I do have respect for John Cena in that regard, where I don't think like a Hogan or even a Stone Cold would do something like that during their primes.
Correct.
So the next one on the list here, and this is actually near and dear to my heart because Kiser, you and I were at our friend Nick's house when we watched this match. This is The Rock versus Triple H at SummerSlam 98. It was a ladder match, and this was to me this is the match, if I can go back and say, when was like the first match that really was like, dude, I am all in for like the future of wrestling? It was actually this match because this was when like the Nation and DX was kind of like at their zenith with The Rock and Triple H leading their respective groups. This was definitely the match of the night. These were two mid-carders that hadn't exactly, reach that superstardom to really like let them see what they're capable of, and they just went out and put on a hell of a match that is still talked about, honestly. And if anyone ever asks me like, what's that first match like when you got back into? I got back into wrestling in 1998 as well, like around WrestleMania. And what was that first match that I'm like, oh man, I am down for this? This was definitely the match.
Yeah, fantastic match, like you said. The Nation DX feud was really represented what stables were all about in the mid to late 90s. and the Rock and Triple H, both mid-card guys that you could see had superstar potential all over them. This match, they had a 2 out of 3 falls match at I think Fully Loaded. A lot of these, this feud was one of the best feuds at the time, and one I still think about to this day. And this match is just another example of 2 stars in the making.
Absolutely, and it ended up being that way. The next one I want to talk about, because I think this is a very interesting turning point, it was SummerSlam 1991, Bret Hart versus Mr. Perfect. I believe it was for the Intercontinental title. And the reason why this is on that list is because this was during the age of giants. This was during the age where the people who were world title contenders were people that did not look like Mr. Perfect or looked like Bret Hart. And this would be like your classic nowadays. And I know CM Punk's not really, in professional wrestling right now. But it'd be like when he fought Daniel Bryan for the world title, and it was just a different looking match. It was a match that we knew technically and just excitement and everything else would have been a really, really good match. So you probably had 2 of the best workers in the company, technician wise or technically, and they put on an awesome show. And I know that there might be a match that you probably remember, Kiser, and I could be totally not speaking out of turn, but I'm sure you can imagine what a match between Mr. Perfect and Bret Hart would look like between the two of them. It was like a flawless, mat technician wrestling. Everything was done. It was very well done,
and crisp. I'm sure. Yeah, it's not one that I've seen. I'm sure I've seen it in the past. It's not one that I know off the top of my head. But you put those 2 guys in there during what was probably the prime of both of their careers, or just starting to get near the prime. They, maybe another year or 2 before they hit that. But I can imagine it being a fantastic match for 2 mid-card, undercard guys at the time.
Yep. So I got time maybe for 2 more matches. We'll go through these last 2 pretty quickly. I wanted to give a quick I know we were talking about Brock Lesnar. I'm going to give a honorable mention to Brock Lesnar versus The Rock 2002. This was when Brock beat The Rock, and this was his first time he got his first world title match, or his first world title shot, and he won it. I once again, that definitely catapulted his career, and I think this was also The Rock's kind of opportunity to go back and doing movies, and I think it definitely put in a new era of wrestling, because I think The Rock was gone for a bit after that all went down. But I just wanted to give that just because it was kind of The Rock's exit and Brock's escalating to the top of the food chain. But the next one I wanted to talk about was my personal favorite match of SummerSlam, which is Shawn Michaels versus Triple H 2002 unsanctioned match. And the reason why I would love this match so much is because, for one, I'm a huge Shawn Michaels fan. He had been gone. He'd been out of wrestling for about 5 years. And this was his first ever match back. Not he didn't wrestle in the indies. He didn't do a lot of kind of dark matches to get ready. This was him in jeans and cowboy boots going into a match against, at the time, the biggest wrestler in the company in Triple H. Outside, obviously, what I mean by that is obviously he wasn't the world champion, but he was definitely probably the biggest, at the time, probably the biggest draw of WWE was Triple H at the time. And they put on as close to a 5-star match you could probably have without it probably being considered by Metzer a 5-star match. And
they're not in the Tokyo Dome, so it's not going to get 6 stars.
Exactly. And it was an incredible match just because that just shows just how much of a natural Shawn Michaels is and was. He was 5 years out of the business, and he put on, and one thing about him is that he will never be he'll never be outclassed in a match. He'll always look good, and he'll always look better than his, than the guy he's going up against. And even then, he still was better than Triple H with just being out of it for 5 years.
Oh yeah, this is a time of wrestling that I was not watching when it happened. It's kind of an era of wrestling I think I regret not being into wrestling when it was going on. But this is definitely a match I've since gone back and watched multiple times, and really just it's so impressive what Michaels was able to do. Come back and the 2 of them worked so well together. It was a phenomenal match. And really just it's an amazing feat that what Shawn was able to do. And it shows you why he is, considered one of the greatest, if not the greatest, in many people's minds.
Absolutely. And also, I just realized that that's the same card that Brock beat The Rock. So that was actually a pretty stacked card as well. I'm actually go back and watch that WrestleMania. Or I'm sorry, that SummerSlam. All right. So the final one I have on here is I'm just going to give honor to Goliath and their number one pick. And they have on here Tables, Ladders, and Chairs match 2000 SummerSlam, which I totally agree. This was Hardy's, Dudley's, Edge, and Christian. And they did, there was the WrestleMania match, obviously. A lot of people remember WrestleMania 2000. And then they came back and they redid it at SummerSlam. And people said that this it intensified and was elevated even further. So if you only watch one of these matches, this would be the one to pick. As good as the WrestleMania one was, this is actually better, which is a crazy thing to think. As good and as much as people talked about one of the greatest WrestleMania tag matches of all time. But this one, I mean, you could put into perspective of just how good this could have been, considering that I think we've all remembered the WrestleMania match. It's a shame that this one's kind of was shuffled into the obscurity because I think it really wasn't for anything. It might have been for the tag titles, but once again, SummerSlam, middle of the year. But yeah, this was a crazy good match. It's definitely one of the ones that is in the upper echelon of greatest tag matches.
Just a quick note: this one actually takes place before the WrestleMania one. WrestleMania follows it up. This was for the tag titles, and believe it or not, I watched this. Maybe a week or two ago. Was not that long ago. They recently the Something to Wrestle With podcast with Bruce Pritchard. They broke down the SummerSlam 2000 card, so I watched the whole pay-per-view before I listened to it, and definitely stole the show. First of all, this match, and it was fantastic. It's not my favorite TLC match of the ones that they've done, but it's a really good match. A lot of high spots, and actually, my fiance, who hates wrestling, doesn't understand why I watch it, caught the tail end of about the last 10 minutes or so and goes, "Oh my gosh, that actually looks like it hurts," as guys are flying off the top of ladders outside through tables and everything else. So you got her to believe. So for that, I think it's worth its weight.
Anyone else is worth its weight? Sierra Mist. Insist on the twist.
All right, now while we discuss some of the greatest matches in the history of SummerSlam, let's go to break down what are probably not going to be the greatest matches in SummerSlam history. That's going to be this year's undercard. It's not that it's terrible, but they're just not all that great. And I'm looking at this list in front of me, and I see the potential for 1 to 2 matches being memorable. And the first one right here is going to be Rusev and Randy Orton. This match just kind of came out of nowhere the other day. I think it was SmackDown, which by the time
who would have thought that something involving Randy Orton would come out of nowhere?
Hey, nice. I like it.
You're welcome.
But yeah, this is just, I think Rusev was talking shit the one day, and Randy Orton just decided to come out and basically challenge him to a match. I think it was a shame that Rusev came back from injury and had to do a job to Cena in a flag match. I'm hoping this is a way of getting Rusev back in control as kind of a dominant heel, because I think SmackDown needs a stronger heel there. I'm also afraid, though, that Randy Orton, after jobbing to Jinder Mahal a few times in a row here now, they're going to give him a payback match to win. Give me Rusev in this one, but I really don't care. I really don't care about this match at all, other than I just want Rusev to look good.
Yeah, and I think you and I are kind of on the same page of if the match doesn't make sense, why are you we're at the point now in wrestling where there's got to be something meaningful with these matches on a pay-per-view card. if you can have this match on SmackDown, I don't care, sure. But the fact that you're going into this match, and yes, we still have 10 minutes or so left, or 10 minutes, 10 days or whatever.
We have a few more than 10 minutes. Yeah.
Yes, we have over a week or so of building this up and everything, but there's no payoff. And I love Randy Orton, you know that. But Randy Orton went from winning the title at WrestleMania to now just like fighting a completely meaningless match at the next pay-per-view. I would have not seen this coming. Give me Randy Orton to win this one, but I see Rusev squashing him. Like I actually don't think this match ends with a clean win.
And maybe it doesn't, and they keep the feud going forward or something to keep us interested. And for that, I would be okay with it, I guess. But I'm just kind of a head scratcher that this is even on the card right now. The next one is probably the match of the undercard I'm most looking forward to, and that's the SmackDown Tag Team Championship with the New Day and the Usos. Of course, the New Day just taking the titles from the Usos at Battleground in what was easily the best match of the show. Now that's not saying much because the rest of the show was absolute hot garbage. But this match was entertaining, and I think if they get some time here on SummerSlam to showcase themselves, I think it'll be another good match. This is sort of just the classic rematch clause. The Usos ready for their title, and they've been feuding for a little while now. So it just continue to that feud. Honestly, I like the Usos with the titles. I'm kind of over the New Day, and I really wanted to see some other tag teams in the mix, but they just had the New Day win it. I have a feeling the New Day are going to retain.
Yeah, they are, and I've just never liked the Usos. I don't know what it is about them. I think they're not. I
like bad guy Usos. I like this heel team that they are now. Not wearing the face paint, being whatever they were before. Just stereotypical Samoans here. Now they're kind of like thug gangsters. I like this side of the Usos.
It almost seems like The Rock, where like when he first came in as Rocky Maivia, he was coming in like, hey, look at me, I'm half Rocky Johnson, half Peter Maivia. I'm a Samoan. Look at me wearing my very ridiculous hair, and look like tribal garbs. And then in the moment he shed those off is when people actually started taking notice and respecting him for his actual abilities and his charisma. So for that sake, I do agree. I think the Usos have still got a little bit of refinement for me to really care. And the New Day they're newly crowned champions. I don't see them dropping the titles this quick.
Looks like we're both in agreement there. The next one is Neville and Akira Tozawa. Of course, this is the Cruiserweight Championship. Neville has not lost the Cruiserweight title in forever. I think since he first took it from the original champion, Rich Swann, I believe it was.
Yeah, right.
He is the king of the Cruiserweights. They've made him dominant in this field. I think he's going to win again here because I just think that they just want to keep rolling with him and show him how dominant he is. And maybe one day Neville will be back with the main roster because I think it's starting to get near that point where he should. I know he's a tinier guy, but he was an NXT champion and should be believable to win it at any given time. That said, he's going to keep dominating the Cruiserweights. And all I can say about Akira Tozawa is he's part of the Titus brand, and the Titus brand is something you should all invest in because it is highly entertaining. So for that sake, I think this match could be all right. I think Titus will be interested on the outside, but I have a feeling that Titus might be the reason that Akira Tozawa does not win this match, causing a little rift with him in the Titus brand.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, no signs point to Akira winning this match. I first thought that maybe Neville just stays here and stays on this particular roster because I think this suits him better. And I know that seems like that's not fair for him, but nothing is going to give him more TV time and more exposure than what they've done with the 205 Live. Obviously, guys like Finn Balor, who are also under 205 pounds, they're on the main roster. But I just don't know. I feel like they tried this with Neville, and he was okay, but it's just like I don't think he really picked up a lot of steam, and I think him being at the top of the food chain in this particular division suits him. So, I mean, agree to disagree. Neville does retain, but I think it's I think in order to keep the 205 Live movement legit, Neville's got to stick around at least for a little while longer.
Can't disagree with you there. I mean, to keep 205 alive, they're going to need to keep Neville there with it. But I just think at some point he's going to get stale being an unstoppable champion. So they either need to have him drop the title eventually or move him along or something. But I honestly don't care enough about the 205 division to be that invested in it, so whatever. It is what it is. Moving on now, we've got the Raw Women's Championship. As of our recording, it's Alexa Bliss defending her title against Bayley. However, last week on Raw, it looks like Nia Jax, because she is still completely green in the ring and probably should not have been brought up yet, injures yet another woman. With Bayley, it looks like Bayley might be out for an extended period of time with some sort of shoulder injury. They're supposed to make an official announcement tonight on Raw. Don't know if it's a work. It doesn't look like it. It looks like it's the truth. If that's the case, I think you're looking at probably Sasha Banks getting the number one contendership, however they decide it. I know there was a rumor of 2 triple threat matches and then the winners wrestling each other next week for the number one contendership. That said, Sasha and Bayley were the two kind of feuding for the right to fight or wrestle Bliss. So my money is on Sasha Banks versus Bliss. If that's the case, I think Bliss retains again. I thought maybe Bayley would get her revenge after getting buried at that kendo stick match that was so terrible for her. But now if she's not there, she's going to kind of, I think it's Sasha, and I still think Alexa Bliss takes it.
I don't think I've ever heard of someone saying, "Oh, you know what match really catapulted my career? A kendo stick match." But regardless, I think regardless, Alexa Bliss will come out of SummerSlam as the champ. I really have too much else to say other than I wish Nia Jax would get better, because I think she's actually very important to the roster. I think having that type of
I think that's
person.
why they promoted her so quickly, is because she is an ideal persona to have in the ring for the women's division. Unfortunately, she's probably a year and a half promoted too early. I mean, she was recently on Jericho's podcast and said the same thing herself. She was surprised when she got the call up when she got drafted. So that says a lot. I think they just thought she might be able to learn on the fly. Unfortunately, she about killed Charlotte one time, and now she hurt Bayley. It's not a good look for her right now, and hopefully they realize that and do something with her to prevent this from happening in the future. We can move on to the women's match on the SmackDown division, and that's of course the defending champion Naomi. If you want to feel the glow, versus the number one contender, Natalya. Of course, Natalya won that fatal 5-way match at Battleground, because I think SmackDown didn't have anything creative to do, so they just threw all their women into a match. And, I love Natalya. I think she's one of the best performers they have. I don't think she ever gets used quite she's just there to help make everybody else look good and work better. She's sort of like the Steven Regal or the Fit Finlay of the women's division. Criminally underrated, and probably because she's not the best on the microphone. But
she's not bad either. I don't think she's the worst.
No, I agree. She's fine. But she's not memorable, I guess, on the microphone. She's not going to be one of your favorites, but she's not so bad that you're like, oh, cringing when she's on there. But in the ring, she's one of the best that they've got. And I would love to see her win the championship here. I don't think she's going to. I think Naomi is going to win it. But Carmella has the Money in the Bank. Does she cash in? No, actually, I take that back. I've got a new theory as I'm thinking about it. Ellsworth is kind of feuding with Becky. Of course, Ellsworth being the male escort for Carmella. And what I can see happening is Natalya winning it here, Becky and Natalya feuding them, because Natalya's kind of the heel and Becky's that face. Becky winning the championship and immediately getting a Carmella cash-in and an Ellsworth interference and make Becky lose the title. Sort of getting that Daniel Bryan can't win the title, can't hold it kind of aspect from her. So I'm going to give Natalya a clean win here and say that Carmella does not cash in.
Yeah, I'll say I don't want to see 2 cash-ins in one night. I mean that'd be interesting, but if it's going to happen the exact same way in a sense, then I don't like that. Where somebody just wins the title just to drop it again and have it twice in a night. Natalya has actually, I didn't know this, which is shocking. She's only been a one-time Divas champion for as long as she has been on.
I actually
been with the company.
Would have guessed she's never won the title, so I didn't know she even had the Divas championship.
She won it back in 2009. So I mean, I just looked it up because I had to just double check and be like, has she ever even won the title?
She deserved the title run more than she's gotten for sure.
Right. So I don't know, man. Like Naomi's had this title right since WrestleMania. I think she's retained it every time, correct? So
yep.
I think this is a good time for her to drop it at the next bit. Usually when I see someone who wins a title at WrestleMania, it's usually around SummerSlam when they start coming up with let's try something different. So I see Natalya winning, but yes, I do see that the cash-in is the end game.
Do you think the cash-in's happening at this pay-per-view or no?
God, I hope not. I think the better ending to SummerSlam is the other cash-in. So I would say with Baron Corbin. So I would say no. I would say this will happen at a later date.
Okay, there you have it. I think we're both in agreement there. I just did a little research. Natalya held the Divas Championship for 70 days, 7-0, so a little over 2 months for her there, and she had beaten Michelle McCool for that championship, who was actually a 2-time Divas champion. So just to put it in perspective for you. And that said, that's kind of it for the undercard. So. Any matches, Kyle, that you what stands out? What's your favorite match out of this group? Are you agreeing with me that's New Day and Usos, or do you get another one you're going to keep an eye out for?
I think the only one that actually has a lasting effect is going to be the New Day and Usos. Although, I'm actually one of the few people, I guess, that really is into the 205 Live. And I as long as these guys put up a good match, the only thing I'm kind of like whatever about is Akira. He's been sporting that shoulder injury for a couple of weeks now, and if Neville's just going to play on that and make it where this match is more grounded, then obviously that's not something that people want to see. They want to, when you want to watch a cruiserweight match, you want to see the high flying, you want to see the risk taking, and I hope that still ends up being a good match. And then obviously I might have even said the Alexa Bliss match, but because of all the uncertainty to it, I don't know how hyped up I can be about it when I don't know who she's facing.
Yeah, I agree. And as far as Neville keeping it grounded, he's going to have Gravity remember him for that to happen. So we'll have to stay tuned for the real main event there, Neville versus Gravity.
Heyo.
All right, it's that time again. It's head-to-head. No, it's not head-to-head because there's no Haddocks here. It is time yet again for the group Great Debate. As always, follow us on Twitter at PseudoNerdPod. We always post our Great Debate polls there for you to vote on. And if you recall, our last 90-minute podcast was the San Diego Comic-Con podcast. And our Twitter poll, our Great Debate was, what are you most looking forward to from Comic-Con trailer reveals? We had Stranger Things 2, Justice League, Infinity Wars, and other. The winner was Infinity Wars with a whopping 50% of the votes. Nobody looking forward to Justice League. We had 25% of the votes saying Stranger Things and 25% saying other, with the comments of Ready Player One. So, Kyle, looks like everybody's ready to see what happens with Thanos and the Avengers. And I can't really blame them.
Yeah, and I also don't think anybody has a whole lot of faith in Justice League, which I also cannot blame them.
Yep, it all speaks itself quite well in just our sample size from the PMPers. That said, we're going to go ahead and discuss this week's Great Debate, and it's going to be just currently about this SummerSlam. And this one for me is I kind of picked 4 random people to a degree of who is most likely to walk out of SummerSlam as champion. We've got Carmella, if she's going to do a cash-in, we got Baron Corbin as well as a cash-in. We've got Shinsuke Nakamura, if he could upset Jinder Mahal, if you call that an upset. And possibly Roman Reigns, the much beloved Roman Reigns, whose yard it is. And Kyle, for me, I think this one is cut and dry. We're going to be discussing the world title pictures in the Universal Championship here shortly. It's Baron Corbin for me. I think he's cashing in. I think he's winning it. I kind of think he's boring and not that great of a wrestler, but that said, they're trying to push him. They're trying to make him be the guy. And no better way to do it than to do the cash-in on Nakamura right after Nakamura, escapes with just a barely wins kind of match against Jinder Mahal and the rest of his entourage of the Bollywood boys and whoever else might be out there, if Kali comes back and whatever the case may be. So for me, it's Baron Corbin, and I don't think it's that bold of a prediction, but that's where I'm at.
No, and I honestly, I have to agree. But because this is a debate, I'm going to not agree with you, and I'm going to try and find a way to actually say that it's actually going to be Shinsuke Nakamura. Now, once again, I am probably going to contradict myself later on because I do see that Shinsuke does win the match, and yes, it probably makes more sense that he's going to be battered and bruised and beaten up, and then he's going to take on a much fresher Baron Corbin, even though he will have a match apparently with John Cena. At least that's unconfirmed, but we'll see.
Just potentially at this point,
right? Especially, what would be more exciting, and also to me, is what if Shinsuke does win and then has to fight Baron Corbin? He goes in there to cash in and finds a way to beat Baron Corbin as well.
Just fights them both back to back on the same card.
On the same card, and then finds a way to actually. It's an interesting
theory, actually. I'm not opposed to that. Like if he just cashed in after the match and they just started a clean match right then and there. Honestly, the way Corbin's wrestling, I would actually be ecstatic for that. I think a lot of fans would be happy for it. Would love to see Nakamura take down two people in the same night. I think it would do a hell of a lot for him. But I think it would hurt Baron Corbin a lot. And the guy just got new theme music at a house show the other day. So how do you give a guy new theme music and have him job the next 2 weeks later at SummerSlam, right?
Or even if it's just, I'm just trying to think of a way that makes them both look like they're big time players. But I just think that that's a better overall ending. Too many SummerSlams end with betrayal or somebody cashing. I feel like SummerSlam's always that time. Like Randy Orton did it to Daniel Bryan, and during a time where Daniel Bryan beat John Cena and earned his first ever title, and then he got cashed in by Randy Orton, and Triple H turned on Daniel Bryan. I just feel like I really hate that recycled idea all the time. So yeah, I agree. I really think ultimately, yes, it will be Baron Corbin, but I'm going to go with Shinsuke Nakamura, and I want to say that he comes out with that victory against Jinder Mahal. And yes, you made my balls itch a bit when you just said an upset over Jinder Mahal. But if Shinsuke Nakamura is able to pull off a victory against Jinder Mahal, and then Baron Corbin comes down, attacks Shinsuke, and then hands the briefcase over, and then Shinsuke finds some way to come out with the title still, I think that is better for SmackDown overall.
I'm not in disagreement there. I'd love to see it as well. We'll have to see. But what about you, PM Pierce? Do you agree? Is it going to be Nakamura? Is it going to be Corbin? Or do you think Carmella cashes in and takes the title? And is it possible that Roman Reigns, of course...
No, it's not Roman Reigns.
No. Well, there you have it. Reach out to us at Pseudo Nerd Pod. We'll have that posted shortly after this podcast drop today, here August 11th. So give us your vote, and as always, follow us on Twitter.
And also reach out on our poll.
All right, now time for the main events. We kind of talked a little bit about one just now, or a couple of them just now in our great debate, but we're going to talk about all the big championships that are confirmed. We're going to start right with the U.S. Championship. AJ Styles defending against Kevin Owens in probably one of the best feuds we've been seeing on SmackDown or Raw, as it's been back and forth. Of course, AJ Styles surprising the world as he won the title at a house show at Madison Square Garden, only to lose it against Kevin Owens in a very strange ending at Battleground, which some people think is a botched finish, or they changed the finish midway through and some people weren't sure about it and didn't know how to go. Styles didn't get his arm up, was supposed to. Whatever the case is, they've had Styles winning it back again then on the ensuing SmackDown with the return of Chris Jericho. A lot of storylines going on here with the return, the quick return and probably gone again to make more Fozzy appearances for Jericho, to Kevin Owens against the management of Shane McMahon and Daniel Bryan, and then of course just the feud of AJ Styles and Kevin Owens. A lot going on. They make Shane McMahon the special guest referee. For me, I think Styles is going to retain here. I just think it's weird to pass the title back and forth that quickly. But for me, the biggest thing is what kind of role Shane McMahon's going to have with him and Owens. And is there going to be a big spot that Shane takes at this pay-per-view? Kyle, what are your thoughts?
I don't think there's going to be a big spot with Shane. I think that's saved up for when he's actually getting more physically involved. I definitely agree. It won't end clean. But I think the rumors out there is that there's going to be actually an Owens McMahon feud coming down the pipeline.
Oh, I think so too. Yeah.
So I think this ends up with AJ Styles retaining and Kevin Owens blaming Shane McMahon, even if it's not actually his fault. It might not be. It might be clean in the sense that I think Owens cuts corners and tries to find ways to kind of cheat a little bit with maybe Shane thwarting him. And then ultimately, maybe Owens puts his hands on Shane. Shane reciprocates, and then AJ Styles finds a way, pulls off the win, and then that's how Owens and McMahon go into it. I do agree, Styles will more than likely retain the title.
All right, we've been in a lot of agreements tonight, I think, on the outcomes of these cards. Usually we tend to differ a lot, but for the most part, I think you and I have almost seen the same thing here. So either SummerSlam is going to be pretty cut and dry, or we're going to be in for some big surprises.
I think the only one so far that you and I have disagreed on has been Randy Orton and Rusev, for whatever that's worth.
You're right.
And I think I actually gave a nod to Big Show for the kickoff show as well.
I think you gave it a hopeful nod, but
yeah, I expect Big Cass to win, but I have like a little birdie is telling me that Big Show may come up with the win, whether it's by DQ or maybe just a not like a squash, like an overwhelming victory, but at least a match enough where Big Show's hand is raised.
All right, Coco Beware, keep your birdies out of these predictions. All right.
Sorry.
The next one we do have is the WWE Championship with the one of the longest reigning defending champions in quite some time, in Jinder Mahal versus Shinsuke Nakamura. Of course, Nakamura just recently defeating John Cena for that number one contendership. We've discussed this a little bit, both in the Great Debate and throughout the podcast so far. I think we're all in agreement. Nakamura is going to win this match. I think Jinder Mahal has held the title more than long enough. He's got his Bollywood boys. He had his Punjabi prison. He had his Great Khali. I think I could see all of them in one fashion or another showing back up. Not Khali so much, but at least the Bollywood boys. I do think Nakamura wins this, but this is for me. This is the Corbin cashing in. Corbin and Nakamura have been feuding for quite some time. It may have started at Money in the Bank when he attacked Nakamura on the way out, and they've really they haven't finished that yet. And for me, I see a cash in feud happening here. I have Corbin walking out as champion. But I do have Nakamura winning against Jinder Mahal. And hopefully that's the last of the Jinder Mahal reign that we've got to be put through as far as being wrestling fans go.
I mean, has it been that bad with Jinder Mahal being the champion? I mean, have the matches not even been interesting? Has it been? I'll be honest.
To be fair, the matches are against Randy Orton. And when Orton doesn't care, his matches are boring. And to put the two of them together, it's just been not must-see television. It's been one of to me, it reminds me of the Diesel run of his first championship run back in the 90s, where they weren't drawing at house shows, that kind of thing. People said he couldn't hold a show, couldn't run, couldn't bring money in. And I feel like if they rated it the same way these days, that's what Jinder Mahal is doing, because he's just not interesting at all. And he's that same old shtick of the foreign heel. And what he's typically been saying is, you guys don't like me because you can't understand me, because I'm a different color than you, because I'm a different race. He can't say any of that wrestling Nakamura, so I'm not sure what his play is going to be here. Maybe he's going to say Nakamura is a U.S. sellout, whatever the case is. I'm over it. I didn't think it was it's so unoriginal, and Jinder, it's Jinder Mahal. Let's just move on there.
Hey, he was in 3MB. All right, I think that speaks volumes of the type of company man he is, and the type of respect he deserves in the locker room. Once again, I agree. Shinsuke is going to win this. I'd be shocked, and I think there would be almost a riot if Jinder retains against Shinsuke Nakamura. I will say also the reason why too. I was kind of doing a little bit of research, and when somebody wins a number one contendership match at SummerSlam for the world title, the last 6 times this has happened, 5 out of 6 times it has been the person who won the number one contendership has won the title. So Shinsuke is in good company.
Well for Natalya.
Yeah. Let's give it to Natalya. Hey, I picked Natalya to win. Maybe that was another one that you and I said were different.
No, I agreed. I said Natalya was going to win that.
Oh, never mind then. All right, so Big Show. Gotcha.
Yep. Okay, so do you think Corbin's cashing in before we move on here?
See, once again, I please ignore the great debate, and I think the writing on the wall says Corbin does. I don't want him to. I would rather. Oh no, I want him to. I want him to lose, though. I want Shinsuke to actually have his moment. I want him to have that moment.
You want it to happen. Do you think it's going to happen?
I think he's going to cash in regardless. I think Corbin is going to walk away with the title. I don't want that to happen.
Again, whether we want it or not, we both think Nakamura wins, Corbin cashes in, and Corbin walks out champion. Right?
Yeah.
All right, now the next one, this could be the one we differ on, other than the Big Show match that nobody cares about. And what was the other one? I'm forgetting now. Another throwaway match. The
Rusev Orton.
Rusev Orton. Yeah, there we go. Actually, I think I said maybe Bray Wyatt in the Bray Wyatt match.
Maybe.
Said Balor, but again, the matches that are less worthwhile. That said, our main event, it is a fatal 4-way. That means we only have a 25% chance of picking the same person, Kyle. We've got Brock Lesnar coming in as the Universal Champion.
Do you want to do like a 1, 2, 3, and we'll just say our name and just see what happens?
We can do that. Number 2, he's wrestling against Samoa Joe versus Braun Strowman versus Roman Reigns. Before we break it down, let's just quickly say who we think's going to walk out as champion. At the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. Samoa Joe.
Damn it.
Okay, well, so Brock, Paul Heyman announced for Brock last week that if Brock loses, he is quitting the WWE because the card was stacked against him, kind of putting everybody over. Of course, Samoa Joe as the one who really stuck it to Lesnar at the last pay-per-view they were at, though he kind of cheap shotted him, he said, and mentioned Strowman is just this monster among men. And then, of course, Roman Reigns is the guy to retire Undertaker, because that's sort of what the motto and slogan they're going for Reigns. So Heyman puts them all over, says if Lesnar loses with the deck stacked against him, he's going to quit. Of course, then he says he's not going to do that because he's the best and, he's a beast, et cetera, et cetera. However, John Jones from UFC fame recently won and called out Brock Lesnar, which could make a lot of money for Brock, a lot of money for WWE and everything else. And it's one of those, if Lesnar lost the fight, it's not the end of the world for him. He made a lot of money in the process, and John Jones is a very talented guy. And if he wins, he looks even better. So definitely see a scenario where Brock fights this this match with John Jones, so I could see it where he loses this match, walks away from the WWE, goes and wrestles or fights John Jones, and comes back, Royal Rumble time or something to that effect. And given the Fatal 4-Way, he does not have to be pinned or submitted in this to lose the title, which is just a great way of Lesnar dropping the title. I think it happened the last couple times Lesnar has dropped the title, with the exception of the Goldberg Shock the World match, has been when somebody else got pinned to that effect. So for me, I think Samoa Joe, I think Strowman and Reigns are still feuding. I think they beat the shit out of each other. And I think somehow Samoa Joe, puts out Reigns or I think that's what it's going to be. Samoa Joe puts out Reigns after Strowman pretty much kills him, and Lesnar gets removed at that point. So for me, Samoa Joe, I think he deserves it. I think he'd be a great heel for them, and somebody who's going to, bring that title on every house show, every pay-per-view, every Raw. Something they need right now. They don't need Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar's a great champion, but they don't need to have him there because he's not there all the time, and they need to display that title and make it relevant. So I think it's Samoa Joe for me.
Yeah, and the thing is, I picked Samoa Joe for that reason only. I think the whole thing with Brock Lesnar and John Bones Jones, first of all, I believe John Jones is also kind of ran into problems with PED use.
He did.
And the one thing that I'm scared of is that he's gonna call out Brock Lesnar. They're gonna put all the makings for this match. By the way, he's 40 pounds lighter than Brock Lesnar. It's not in the same weight class. So
he is, and that's another reason why they think he's almost done everything in his weight class. So they think that this is calling out Brock is kind of a can't lose for both of them for that reason.
Right. So that's why at first I thought this match can't even happen, can it? Because can he? I guess he can technically fight above his weight class.
Yeah, he can fight above his weight class, and Lesnar can take it. It's more of a can Lesnar size versus his reach and stuff like that. I don't know a ton about UFC, but I was listening to some people break it down, and it seems like it's very possible it could happen, and it makes a lot of sense for both parties involved.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, it's about payday. I mean, Jones and Lesnar are basically slated to make a ton of money doing this, and yeah, sure. I mean, bring UFC and WWE. I feel like Dana White and Vince McMahon have a feud, but I think deep down they are shrewd business partners. But on the outside, they just talk trash about each other's companies. But I think deep down, I think they actually have a good working relationship because ultimately, they're both companies are destined to make good money if they use each other's platforms in the right way.
I agree completely. So that said, I think we both agree Samoa Joe's walking out as champion. Will be a lot of title changes if this all happens. But yeah, I mean, that's the card as a whole. Final thoughts, Kyle, before we kind of close out this show with our final thoughts and a big announcement we have to make. Do you have anything else you want to say about SummerSlam 2017?
I have one bold prediction, even though I did say that Samoa Joe would be the winner. My bold prediction is Lesnar retains, though. If I had to pick anything right now where I could turn around and say, what's the one match that I think could be different against the one that I already picked next, other than Big Cass and Big Show, I actually would say Brock Lesnar. And I know that seems weird. It may seem weird because of all the chatter, but that could just be chatter as well. And there could be something down the line, and there's nothing stopping Brock.
Exactly.
Honestly,
I mean, he could still go
and do his match. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
So I can still see Brock coming out with the title, regardless. But I think it's in the cards that Samoa Joe is going to be your every week champion on Monday nights, and also I think it's just one of those things, just kind of like Nakamura. I think they really want to give those guys like their nod. I think that they really, throughout their extensive careers, I think they really deserve.
Yeah, both former NXT champions, so you know they believe in them, and I think they saw what Joe could do with his previous fight with Lesnar. So I think they've got a lot of faith in him, and I could see Joe doing it. But to your point, if Lesnar retained, it wouldn't shock me by any means. And that said, fans feel free to reach out to us on Twitter. Let us know, what matches you're looking forward to. Do you agree with all of our picks? I mean, it's not very often that Kyle and I fall in line with almost every match prediction. So maybe we're the norm, maybe we're not. We'll see come August 21st. That said, we have kind of a big announcement here. Actually, a really big announcement for the Pseudo Nerd Podcast. And that's Pseudo Nerd Podcast is done. I think we'll probably have one more episode. I do want to have like a finale show with Haddix involved. A lot of thought went into this. It was, it's been a lot of fun. It's also a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of money. And it's tough. And that said, we are not going anywhere from the podcast world. We are changing and pivoting to a different format. We thought this would be a good show to bring it up because it is a wrestling podcast, and what we're going to be doing is a wrestling podcast. Now, I know you have about 1 million wrestling podcasts out there to choose from, and we're hoping that ours is going to be a little different in that it's going to scratch that nostalgia itch you might have for the Monday Night Wars era. And what we're going to kind of do is with the starting Monday, September 4th, it's going to mark the 22nd anniversary of the first episode of WCW Monday Nitro, and we thought we would go week by week releasing podcasts where we're going to go back and watch the retro Raws, the retro Nitros, discuss, break down, have a lot of fun with everything that's involved there. We're still kind of working out the details of the show. As far as even the name and stuff, we've got some ideas. I don't want to say anything yet because I don't know what we're officially calling it. We've got some working titles. Monday Night Marks. I'll just throw that out there in case it does. It is the sticking one. You can look for us there, but look to us at Pseudo Nerd Pod, and we'll have all the information for the new podcast. But that's kind of the idea there. And like I said, we'll probably put out one more Pseudo Nerd Podcast, at least a finale show with Haddix, get all three of us in there to discuss kind of things. But it's been a lot of fun, and we hope you PMPers will listen to our wrestling podcast when we do release that first episode that first week of September. That said, Kyle, anything you want to add to all of that?
I mean, I think the reason why we're also pivoting over towards this is because we really wanted to do – I think this was a podcast that we've always kind of wanted to do. It's always something that we talk about when all three of us are together. And when we
in some ways, it was kind of the reason we started a podcast. I mean, we chatted a lot about wrestling and thought, what if we make a podcast about everything that we like?
Yeah, exactly. And I think what we came to the conclusion about is as much as we like certain things, you can definitely tell the production value on some of our podcasts is better than some others, and we think that's unfair for you guys. And we think that if we went back to the drawing board and really focused on something that I think that the three of us can really have in-depth banter, disagreements on, and just overall better laughs, better just discussion overall. Wrestling is definitely the one to go to, and like Kiser said, there are a ton of wrestling podcasts out there. We know that that a lot of people who are listening to us right now may be disappointed that we're moving over. But if you guys enjoy us as entertainers and as people that are there to put a smile on your face, and the jokes are going to keep coming. This is all about creating a better podcast overall. We're trying to create better content, and so that's why we're not leaving you guys because we don't want to do it anymore. We feel you guys deserve a better show week in, week out, and we think that overall this is the best way of doing that.
Absolutely. So stay tuned. We got a lot of fun things going forward with that. And like I said, we don't want to end this on a sour note. So we will have one more episode. We're going to do a finale show. We're going to try to get Haddix to show up for it. That'll be the toughest part. So I can't promise it'll be next week or even the week after that, but hopefully somewhat soon anyways. It doesn't do anybody any good to release a Pseudo Nerd podcast 6 months from now, but hopefully we can get one more for you guys here very soon, a little finale, going away show. That said, if you like the SummerSlam show, hopefully we got a lot more of that coming. I know I just went back and watched the first Nitro episode, which aired, like I said, that September 4th. 1995. So I'm looking forward to discussing it. Can't wait. Really excited about this kind of a different project. That's it. That's all I got left to say. Kyle, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Also, because the fact that the Pseudo Nerd podcast is dissolving pretty soon, the Pseudo Nerd stream is also being dissolved. But fret not, because I still enjoy streaming and I will be still streaming. You actually can find me on Twitter, not Twitter, my God, on Twitch at handle Hougie Boom, HOUGIEBOOM. I actually just started streaming on Monday the 7th, and I will be streaming Monday through Thursday from 4 to 6 p.m. With the occasional casual Friday. So would love to still have you guys hang out with me on those.
There you have it. So take a look at that. You'll still get some of the Just Kyle Hoagland of the Pseudo Nerd podcast in a different form. That said, from the shores of Lake Erie, I am Josh Kiser, and he is Kyle Hoagland, and we will see you one more time.
Have a good Friday, and see ya.